Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the overall SmackDown report for the 19th of November 2021. Again, SmackDown continues to be a show that you really have to wonder why is this on national television for a number of reasons, unless you're just, you know, basically a person who doesn't care about quality wrestling because I'm sorry, although the talents work hard, the stories are completely inconsequential for the most part, and also the idea of this being the go home show for the Survivor Series just shows how flat wrestling is in a lot of ways. Anyway, they recap the Roman Reigns and King Xavier match from last week, highlights Reigns posing on one knee while Usos place Woods' crown on his head. Romans and the Usos segment. The Usos are already in the ring to start SmackDown. They have a throne, a scepter, and a crown. Jimmy notes that Roman Reigns is about to come to the ring, and they have a surprise for him. They address the match against RK Bro at Survivor Series on Sunday. Do the Usos and the Usos. Then they give Roman a grand introduction, and he walks to the ring with Heyman, and he gets a reasonably mixed reaction. Heyman takes the mic and notes that he worked on a surprise all week. They praised Reigns and called him a true king. Heyman then believes that the fans agree that the title of king doesn't belong to Xavier Woods, Brock Lesnar, or Big E. He promises Reigns would smash Big E at Survivor Series. Reigns then takes the mic and asks what the idea is to set the ring up with the throne and the crown. Heyman points to the Usos, and then Reigns notes that he took the crown last week but didn't need it. Reigns then demands that the fans acknowledge him and gets a mixed reaction with a good bit of cheers there too. Woods' music hits and he walks out to the stage. Woods notes having the crown doesn't make him the king. He tells Reigns to meet him face to face without the Usos to prove that he was a real man. Woods then claims he didn't care about the crown and that the other stuff in the ring. Reigns doesn't believe him, and the Usos destroy the scepter and the throne. Reigns then mocks Woods and questions him again. Reigns then places the crown on the ground and goes to stomp it, but Woods runs into the ring. Usos jump Woods and beat him down in the corner. Reigns gut in Woods' face and notes that he's the one and only king. Reigns then also doesn't need props. Reigns then stomps the crown. They recap Jeff Hardy defeating Sami Zayn last week. Michael Cole notes that there's one spot left on Team SmackDown. In the back, Caleb Braxton interviews King. Woods promises to confront Reigns later tonight. Fatal four-way match winner added to the Team SmackDown Survivor Series team. Sheamus defeats Ricochet, Cesaro, and Jinder Mahal with Janky 1059. Not bad, but the four-way just to get people on the show is stupid. Sheamus backs Ricochet into the corner while Cesaro brawls with Mahal on the other side of the ring. Sheamus and Cesaro then go face-to-face, but Mahal jumps Cesaro. Heels work over him together, and then Sheamus dumps Cesaro out of the ring, and the heels isolate Ricochet. Mahal then set Ricochet up, so Sheamus could in fact beat him in the chest. Sheamus then manages to start hitting Ricochet, but Mahal rolls Sheamus up for the near fall. Sheamus then recovers and beats Mahal into the chest. Instead, Cesaro jumps Sheamus and goes for the giant swing, but Sheamus breaks free. And then they getting back in the ring. There's an isolation of Ricochet. Ricochet takes out Sheamus with a springboard dropkick. He then sends Cesaro to the outside of the ring and hits a huge dive onto him because, well, we need dives in a match that doesn't matter anyway, and takes out the opponents on the floor. Back from the break, Ricochet and Cesaro fight on the top rope. Sheamus and Mahal fight on the top rope on the other side. Time for a second, and Sheamus gives Mahal a superplex. Ricochet then gives Cesaro a Rana off the top rope. Sheamus then goes for power slam, but Ricochet counters with a DDT follows up with a standing shooting star press and a near fall. Mahal then takes out Ricochet, but Cesaro catches him with the giant swing. Cesaro transitions into a sharpshooter, and we're all supposed to care. I can't quite figure out why. So Ricochet then takes out Shanky at ringside and then calmly steps into the ring, rocking Cesaro with kicks and to break the hold. And Ricochet hits a 630 splash on Mahal, but then walks into a brogue kick from Sheamus. Cesaro breaks up the pin attempt, but Sheamus again fights back. Sheamus leaps over the top rope, but Cesaro catches him with an uppercut. Ridge Holland runs down to ringside and tries to distract Cesaro. Sheamus then goes for the brogue kick, but Cesaro avoids it and rolls into a near fall. Holland interferes again, and Sheamus hits a brogue kick on Cesaro for the win. Sheamus joins Team SmackDown, and absolutely only the Crickets care. In the back, Caleb Braxton interviews Jeff Hardy. Hardy praises Drew McIntyre and is expected to be his partner. Or excited to be his partner and expected to be his partner, I suppose. He also is certain that King Woods is going to get revenge on Roman Reigns. Hardy then turns his attention to Happy Corbin. Corbin and Madcap Moss appeared and approach, and they make a bunch of jokes about Hardy. Adam Pearce walks up and is frustrated that they weren't taking things seriously. He announces that Hardy versus Moss for later tonight, and again, look how far. Jeff Hardy has fallen in the back. Megan speaks with Sheamus and Ridge Holland. Sheamus mentions Holland praising him in the last few weeks. Holland praises Sheamus again and calls him his idol. Holland notes that if anyone has problems with them, they can find them in the pub. Michael Cole and Pat McCaffrey discuss the Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch match. Cole then claims everyone in the media is talking about their feud. That's one pathetic media. Then they show up an excellent video package of Flair and Lynch feud. It mentions their friendship and becoming bitter rivals in the controversial segment a few weeks ago. Shayna Baszler and Natalya defeat Naomi and Aaliyah 101. Why even have them get dressed for 60 seconds? Bad match, still in 60 seconds, even though they could have easily edited this down. Finish comes out of nowhere. Fast count from the referee, but no one really seems to care either way. They recapped Aaliyah pinning Natalya last week, and DeVille removing her from Team SmackDown. Natalya backs Aaliyah into the corner. Aaliyah fights back and catches Natalya with a interesting-looking Huracan Rana that doesn't really look like one. They briefly run wild on the heels. Baszler backs Naomi into the corner. Suddenly, Natalya pins Naomi. Fast count. In the back, Sami Zayn complains to Sonya Deville about the conspiracy against him. We're still doing that storyline, apparently. Deville then points out that Adam Pearce is not here. Deville notes that Survivor Series is the 25th anniversary of The Rock's debut. Wow, that seems to have gone by really quickly. Anyway, and DeVille announces that 25-man Battle Royal and puts Zayn in the match. She claims that Zayn would be at The Rock's level if he won, perhaps his level of perspiration. Anyway, the referee approaches DeVille and asks if she did a good job. DeVille claims not to know the referee and said she doesn't associate with crooked referees. Jeff Hardy with Drew McIntyre defeats Madcap Moss with Happy Corbin in 128. Again, why have them even get dressed for this? Anyway, Hardy and Moss don't get time, and the finish comes out of nowhere. Before the match, Hardy notes the odds are against him, so he brought out McIntyre to be in his corner. McIntyre gives him the sword to Pat McCaffrey to take care of during the match. Moss jumps Hardy and gets an early advantage. Hardy then fights back, basement dropkick, and then follows up with a twist of fate. Climbs to the top rope. Corbin interferes, but McIntyre attacks and throws him on the announce table. Hardy then tries to recover, but Moss cuts him off. Hardy then rolls up Moss with a small package for the win. After the match, McIntyre gives Corbin the Claymore kick. Hardy goes for the Swanton Bomb in the back. Caleb Braxton approaches Paul Heyman. Heyman notes that Roman Reigns doesn't need the Usos. He accepts Woods' challenge for later in the show. Non-title match, Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura with Rick Boogs defeats Angel with Carrillo 146. Really, so the Intercontinental title is reduced to a 2-minute title. Another quick match, don't get any chance to develop. Angel rocks Nakamura with a dropkick to the back. Michael Cole notes that Los Lotharios are upset. People magazine named Paul Rudd the sexiest man alive, and they showed Photoshop cover featuring Lotharios. Nakamura sends Angel to the floor, catches him with a knee. On the apron, Humberto grabs Nakamura's leg, but Boogs grabs him and gives him a suplex on the floor. Nakamura then goes for the Kinshasa on Angel for the win, and that's that. In the back, Shotzi and Sasha Banks give each other dirty looks going forward. DeVille makes them shake hands after their match. Sasha Banks defeats Shotzi 11:05. Banks and Shotzi have a decent enough match. Although, in comparison, why does this get 11 minutes and everything else gets under 3? Don't really understand. Banks and Shotzi push each other at the start of the match. Banks hits the Three Amigos, and fans break into an Eddie chant. Shotzi avoids a frog splash. They brawl at ringside. Shotzi then traps Banks' arms and stomps on her several times. Shotzi then gets a brief advantage till Banks fights back and hits a Meteora off the apron. Back from the break, Banks is firmly in control. Shotzi then fights back and attacks the arm to be able to take over. Banks then recovers and sends Shotzi's headbutt into the turnbuckle. She follows up with double knees and Meteora for a near fall. Shotzi then attacks the arm again and hits a sliced bread for a near fall. Shotzi continues targeting the arm and throws Banks into the ring post, follows up with a ball pit, but Banks rolls to the floor. Banks then recovers and locks on the Banks statement for the win. Post-match, Banks and Shotzi shake hands, but Banks then hits a backstabber. Banks walks off and notes that Sonya Deville that she shook her hand. In the back, Paul Heyman tells Roman Reigns that it's time to head to the ring. And then Reigns tells Uso to stay in the back. Then they promote Xia Li's upcoming debut. Comic book style video there. I guess that's pretty basic along the way. And then takes the story of Li's father being family protector until his death. Landlord is harassing the family, so Li takes on the father role and beat up the landlord. I guess this is fine. Caleb Braxton interviews Tony Storm about joining Team SmackDown. They recapped the Storm challenging Charlotte Flair last week, and then Storm demands title shot and mocks Flair. Flair approaches and promises to deal with Storm after she defeats Becky Lynch on Sunday. There is a contribution of continuation there. Roman Reigns, Xavier Woods confrontation. I guess it's a decent enough closing segment, and Big E appearing is good enough as well. King Woods comes back to the ring and notes that the Usos interfered last week because Reigns can't beat Woods on his own. Woods then calls out Reigns to prove him wrong. Reigns then walks out of the ring, and Paul Heyman stops in front of Paul Heyman, looked back, and then calls for the Usos. Reigns smiles. However, the Usos didn't come out suddenly. Jay and Jimmy went flying, but the entrance. Woods then goes into the ring with his arms crossed and a huge smile across his face. Big E's music hits, and out comes Big E. Woods and Big E hug in the ring and beat down Reigns together. Usos recovers and running into the ring, but Big E hits the big ending on both. Woods follows up with a dive, wiping out the Usos, and Reigns jumps back in, hits a Superman punch on Big E. Reigns then sets up the spear. Big E catches him with a big ending. Reigns slips out and goes back and runs off. Big E poses in the ring with the championship while Reigns holds up the Universal title in the aisle and SmackDown closes. My gosh, wrestling has fallen so far in the last 30 years. Anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.